Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Avatar video. So CinemaCon just happened. Paramount had their big event. We were wondering, are they going to talk about the Avatar movie at their CinemaCon event? And they did. But of course, because it's CinemaCon and it's an industry event and you're not allowed to record it or like take pictures, the information has only come out through people who were in attendance giving text reports on what has happened. And that has led to a bit of confusion about what exactly is like brand new information that was presented at this event versus how much is just sort of like older information that we're kind of bringing up once again. And I think it's important to be very clear about this because some of this information hasn't been reconfirmed in quite a while. But let's get into it. So I have a bunch of articles up here, new ones, older ones to highlight where other information previously came from, a bunch of tweets and sites and stuff like that, just to try and cover everything as much as possible. So the main headline here is, of course, some voice actor information for the movie. So as you can see here, headline here from Variety, Dave Bautista and Eric Nam to headline voice cast for new Avatar The Last Airbender animated movie at Paramount Nickelodeon. Interesting. So yeah, they confirm these are our kind of headliners here. Interestingly, the Variety article doesn't confirm that Eric Nam was, I think, rather directly confirmed to be the voice of Aang in the new movie. Dave Bautista will be voicing a villain, which they do confirm. So there's some weirdness here. Some articles mention some things, but don't mention others. There is some confusion going around about some of this information. So the big one, I think this is basically confirmed everywhere. The film's working title is Aang, The Last Airbender. So I initially saw this via this tweet. And I was just like, I read it as Avatar The Last Airbender will be the first of 3 Avatar animated movies. And I was kind of like, is the official CinemaCon account tweeting this out? Surely this is news. Where's the news here? We already know about the 3 movies. But then I read it again and I was like, wait, Aang The Last Airbender. Oh, I guess that's the title, and now it's since been confirmed to be the working or tentative title for the movie. So it may change, they might keep it the same. Either way, we finally have an official working title for it, and that's kind of cool. Is it a good title? There's been some debate about this, of course. At the very least, it is clear and makes it very obvious what the movie kind of is. That it's a Last Airbender franchise, since we can't really use Avatar in the titles, I guess, really. So we're confirming exactly what it is and that it's going to be an Aang movie. It's all here in this title. And especially this title attached to, you know, an image associated with the movie that makes it clear that it's the adult Team Avatar. And I think you're going to make it extremely clear to people what this movie is, and that's what you need to do. This is going to be the relaunch of the franchise effectively with the first animation in over 10 years. You don't want to mess this up potentially by giving it a fancy title that doesn't obviously come across as being Avatar. So if you're going to call it like Hidden Kingdom or Echoes and Aftershocks, like some of the rumors, it's like, well, if you don't make it super clear that it's Avatar, it's Aang, it's Last Airbender kind of stuff that we're talking about here, you might lose some people initially. So they're in a bit of a challenging situation here about like what is the name of the franchise that we can use consistently across all of these projects. And it is Avatar, but unfortunately we can't really use Avatar, and they don't seem to want to use Avatar Legends, and it's just very confusing. For new avatars, I guess you can just call it the legend of whatever the character's name is and go along with that. For other stuff, it's a little bit more confusing. But anyway, that's that. So, voice acting information then. Joining Bautista and Nam in the voice cast are Adon Quan, again, sorry about the pronunciation here, Jessica Matten, we've heard that name before, of course, so that gets confirmed here, and Roman Zaragoza. Plot details remain under wraps, so they didn't talk about the plot at all. And then they confirm Bautista will voice a villain character. They then say the new Avatar animated film is set for release on October 10th, 2025 from Paramount. Now, a lot of articles have tagged this on, and for some people, I suppose it's just obvious because, hey, that is the confirmed date from like a long time ago. Why would it be different? But I think it's important for some of us who've been keeping track of this, sort of like as every bit of news has come out, to be like, did they actually say this at the event? Or is this still just like assumed from when it was last presented as information? Because again, where this comes from is Variety basically put out the initial article back in November 2022 talking about the fact that the movie is coming out October 10th, 2025. This is where this came from. We've had that date for nearly 2 years now. And it really hasn't been referenced that much. There's the initial talk about it, and then this post on the official Avatar Instagram where they highlighted October 10th, 2025. Interestingly, this was a post that they put out oddly timed at basically the same time as CinemaCon last year was happening. They didn't post the image or anything else. It was just they posted this date, obviously quite a few months after the initial kind of debut of this information. So, you know, that's why we're asking the question. Since then, layoffs have happened at Avatar Studios. A long time has passed. We've had opportunities, interviews with Mike and Brian, interviews with Lauren Montgomery, where surely you'll bring up the fact that your movie has a date, but they didn't. So what's the situation here? Is production going as planned and they're going to hit the October date and everything like that? This is where the lack of sort of direct quotes about what was exactly said isn't super clear. Because I don't get the impression that at the event they talked about this movie in the sense of it having a date. In that, like, I don't think they mentioned this specifically. So is it still just assumed that it's in place? For some people, they might just be like, hey, it's fine. Like, that's the date. But I think it is important to know if it was or was not said to be the case from the event. And this is where it's just a very frustrating situation here in terms of like what actually was and wasn't said at the event. The studio announced in June 2022, 3 standalone Avatar animated films were in development. Okay, so there we go, the idea of their 3 standalone films, because some places are reporting this as like a trilogy. And again, I suppose you can have a trilogy of movies, but them not really be connected. But some places I think are going with the kind of report more along the lines of like, it's this cast in 3 different movies, whereas it does seem like they are very separate movies based on certain bits of information. But anyway, 2025 movie is the only one with a release date or really any information about it. Lauren Montgomery is the director, which we've known about for a while. Mike and Brian are going to be executive producers alongside Eric Coleman. And we also, I think this is new actually, William Mata is co-directing. And then everything else is just other kind of random information, nothing super interesting. Entertainment Weekly also have this. They say, you know, it's the first movie in an Avatar trilogy, but they also in their article then settle on the idea of the movies will be told as separate stories as opposed to a unified 3-parter. And again, this is just the idea of, I think when I hear trilogy, I do associate it as being interlinked like movies, like a part 1, part 2, part 3 type thing. Whereas this does seem to be basically, like they said before, 3 standalone movies. The EW article does say that Eric Nam will voice Aang. The Variety article didn't. I think other places have confirmed this as well. Bautista in a villain role. And note, they don't actually say who the other characters are voicing, but I think we can figure it out, which we'll get to in just a second. They also go through some of the previous information about when it was announced and all this sort of stuff. Because again, it was actually EW who I think is the main article out there about there being 3 movies in the first place. And this is from, of course, June 2022. So we're talking about relatively old information here. And it's like, does all of this stuff still 100% apply now? Because 2 years ago, are we not talking about an earlier point in development, and how much of it is still perfectly valid at this point? There's some confusion there, obviously, but otherwise there's not too much like other kind of information really out there for the most part. Then we have Night Edge Media, who has a few interesting little bits in this one. So most of it is the same, but interestingly, it says here, the presentation also reiterated that this is the first film out of 3. And then in brackets here, this is new, all going to focus on different avatars. And I was kind of like, wait, well, where did this come from? And I actually asked here, just straight up, who wrote the article? What's the situation here? Where did this come from? He confirmed it's his own information. So this is some sort of a, I guess, like scoop, their own source that they're kind of running with here on this, that apparently these are going to be so standalone as movies that they will actually be all about different avatars, which is super interesting to know. So a lot of the previous rumors that we have had were suggesting this. The very early rumors were actually suggesting that the movies would all be about different avatars. But then it seemed like the more recent rumors were maybe suggesting that like maybe one of them will be a Zuko movie. But like, what's the situation now? They're leaning back towards different avatars. So I don't know what the situation's going to be here. Like what? Aang, Korra feels like a movie is probably the best place to come back to Korra. And then what other avatar? Do they go for one of the past avatars? Do they go for a new avatar? Whether that be the potential like Earth avatar after Korra or someone else? Not really sure. But interesting if this one ends up fully panning out and being the case. Or if maybe that idea of maybe a second ATLA movie, but with Zuko more of the focus, is maybe the direction that they actually go in. Again, trying to clarify the difference between sort of fully confirmed information and then what is more rumored based on insider information type stuff. So yeah, this again, Night Edge Media kind of seems to put the pieces together in terms of who's voicing who. So we know Eric Nam is voicing Aang. Jessica Matten from the previous reports, where we heard about her name come up first, basically confirmed she was the voice actress for Katara before it got taken down, but it feels like that is absolutely the case. Roman Zaragoza will voice Sokka, apparently. Adon Quan will voice Toph, and Dave Bautista is going to voice the villain. And then it is noted here that the speculation is that Dante Basco will return to voice Zuko, and he will be the only one of the main cast to return to voice their kind of actual character. And by main cast, I do mean the kind of main 5 Team Avatar members. We don't know about other characters being included. You might ask about like Suki, and like, is that a possibility for the actress to come back? Who knows? Not sure. But this is an interesting one as well, because there have been some places really running with the idea that Dante Basco is 100% confirmed as Zuko, when it's a rumor that we've known about for actually quite a while. Like, even if you say that is the case, it's not really new information. It was just kind of like expected information. So I'm wondering like what the full situation is there overall. But anyway, that's that. So like I said, CinemaCon put up this thing about the 3 movies, but note that officially, I don't think at this event they directly said anything beyond that there are 3 movies. I don't think they actually said about any relation or lack of relation between the movies, just that there are 3 of them. Another report, again, talks about it being a trilogy. And again, this gets into the idea. Did they say trilogy? Did they say 3 movies? And people's interpretation of it. Some slight extra information here is that we have 2 new producers confirmed here. So some of the other kind of staff members on the movie are getting kind of confirmed here as we go through this. And then I think a lot of this is just, yeah, that's an older article confirming the 3 movies. This is the older article confirming the release date. The old Instagram article, that's the confirmation of it being specific information about the 3 movies being all about different avatars, apparently. So getting into the actors themselves, again, I don't have too much to say about them. This has always been my thing. If you'll note, as I went through my coverage on Netflix Avatar, I don't have too much to say about them because I don't tend to follow actors, and I'm very much I trust the people who have been hired for these roles to do their roles well, and I will judge their performances and how the actual thing is when it actually comes out. I would be much more interested to speculate if we did get some plot details, whereas I find it very difficult to speculate about if actors are suited for specific roles or not. So Eric Nam here is going to be our Aang. This is 100% confirmed, and you can see here, it's already been added to kind of IMDb. This is the stuff that kind of he has been involved in, and I think people are saying that he's like a singer or sort of related to K-pop or something like that. Again, I really don't know. Following actors is not really my thing. The sort of star announcement here is Dave Bautista as our villain in the movie, which is an interesting kind of casting choice to go for more of a big star, like obviously well known as a wrestler, but has really made the transition over to being a pretty serious actor since then. Of course, in Marvel, in Guardians of the Galaxy, but also I think some of the other performances that he's done have received pretty good acclaim. So yeah, he's been in a lot of stuff, including I think like a few voice acting roles. So it's not that he's only like on screen. He has done some voice acting stuff as well. Obviously there might be a bit of a debate to be had here about should the movie be mainly going for specific, voice actors rather than going for kind of movie stars who also do some voice acting. But I'm guessing it's just they want to have notable names attached to the launch of this franchise, relaunch in the theaters. And that is just the reality of kind of what you have to do to kind of promote things, is kind of attach big names onto it. But I'm assuming, and again, I'm trusting the process here, that they've all gone through like casting and they all fit the roles that they're doing really, really well. Jessica Matten as Katara here. Again, like I said, when we've got the first information about her, I don't think I've seen anything that she's actually been in, but I trust that she will do the role well. Roman Zaragoza, who is apparently our Sokka here. Again, there's the kind of credits here. I don't, again, think I've seen anything that he's in. But we'll see how it goes for older Sokka. Interesting one. Adon Quan here. Interesting, actually known for some, of course, quite a lot of voice acting work, so that's kind of cool. Interesting detail for anyone wondering, she is legally blind, so they're going for, I guess, for some very accurate casting here across the board. They, I guess, have been trying to do this in terms of like matching up, kind of like the Last Airbender Netflix show. They're going for kind of more accurate to like the nations and what the nations are based on casting. And in fact, I wonder, like, was this actually full on like part of it, like that they wanted someone who was blind to be the voice actor, or if this is just like a complete coincidence. I guess it doesn't really matter, but cool to see more of a kind of veteran voice actor here in the role. And again, like I said, I don't have too much to say about the voice actors. I'm sure you guys watching this will probably be more familiar with a lot of them and can maybe tell me some stuff about them. So yeah, that is basically everything. It's kind of unfortunate that like none of the information particularly allows me to kind of go really in depth on it, because the info here is mainly voice acting information and then a rather generic working title, unfortunately. I felt I needed to take the time to go through it kind of piece by piece to highlight what kind of is confirmed, what isn't confirmed. So, the date, I'm going to trust that it maintains its October 10th, 2025 date, because if you were going to announce a date change, this is the place to do it. Even if it was somewhat heavily delayed, my assumption would have still been that they would say what it is, because they announced, I think, movies like even talking about like late 2026. So the fact that they didn't, and there's, apart from, I guess, just the fact that we know it's coming out October 10th, 2025, that's the reason that they just went with this. And I guess because they already put out a date, they didn't feel the need to go over it again. I think it's just one of those things where, like, until, for instance, they update the Avatar Studios website or the official Instagram or something like that, note some of this details by actually, like, going over, like, hey, we just announced the voice actors for our movie, which is coming out at this point. Just a quick check here, just while I'm here recording. On the Instagram, have they said anything? No story and no recent post that's relevant. Of course not. Of course they're not going to do anything about this. So the question still sort of remains, okay, this is sort of insider kind of information that's allowed to get out there publicly, but it's maybe not being made into, like, the biggest thing because, of course, there's no, like, footage, there's no images, like, attached to this necessarily for Avatar. When is it actually going to get more of a kind of proper reveal? Because we're still a year and a half away from the movie. If the October date remains, we're a year and a half out. SDCC, NYCC, especially NYCC, that brings us up to 1 year until the movie. That feels like a point at which, like, at New York Comic Con or maybe even SDCC, I think they need to have some sort of a thing where at the very least it is a movie poster. A year out, they should be locking in what the title is, having a visual to go along with it, and just making it super clear with a year to go, this is what we're doing. So the fact that, like, it still is a working title is a little bit frustrating, but it was good that they at least mentioned it, because there was absolutely a chance that we maybe went through this and they didn't talk about any of it. So the fact that we've actually got some substantial information is good. The fact that they seem to have all of their main cast is good, and at least shows progress at the very least. So we'll see if there's any maybe follow-up stuff now that some of this stuff is out there publicly, if maybe there is more of an official announcement that happens maybe in the coming days. But that's all I really have to say right now. So in the comments, let me know what your thoughts are on voice actor information, I guess working title, and what do you make of some of the other scattered pieces of information that we've learned here? Were you expecting more? Or are you like me, just happy it was mentioned at all for the first time in a long time? But let me know your comments below. But that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.